All right, guys, so we have today an epic, legendary book. I mean, this book is so good that I'm gonna have to do two parts to this one because there's just too many point. Like, I was reading through the points like in my book summaries, and I was like, there's just too many I want to go through in this book. There's 6 of them, so we're gonna do 3 in this video, and we're gonna do 3 in a part 2 video. But all these points are just so powerful. Like, usually I just choose the top 3. But this book just it's just too jam-packed with gold that I just needed to do 2 parts to this one. So this is part 1. Be on the lookout for part 2 that'll be coming in 2 weeks from now. All right. So number 1, well, the book, let's talk about the book first. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Okay. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Okay, I mean, I'm sure almost everybody's heard of this book. It's one of the more very popular books in the realm of self-development. So I'm sure a lot of you watching this have heard of it, or if not, you've just read it already, because a lot of people have read this book. So let's get right into it. And I'm going to explain, obviously, my biggest takeaways and the things that I feel were the most important, as I was reading through this book. So this first one here, if you don't give a fuck, then you don't care if others think you do or you don't. All right, let this one actually sink in. So let's say, for example, if you're somebody that truly doesn't give a fuck, you're just you don't really care too much about what other people think and stuff. And then somebody comes to you and says, you know what, Jack? I feel like you care a lot. I feel like you really do give a fuck. And you're like, no, what are you talking and you get really defensive and try to justify yourself and get emotional about it. Then, that's your sign that you do give a fuck. So for example, let's use, let's say, for example, you're worth $100 million. You're extremely rich. You're worth $100 million. And somebody comes up to you and is like, dude, you're not rich at all. Just imagine how you would react to that. You'd be like, you'd probably make a smile, be like, all right, keep moving. Just very nonchalantly, because you know for sure that you're rich, right? Or let's say, for example, if you're just a very confident person and someone's like, you know what, I feel like you're not confident. You'd be like, all right, you brush it off I don't care. Okay. But if you're just no, I'm confident because this, and that, and you're really just attached to that idea of this is who I am, that means you're probably have some insecurity underlying that issue, right? So if you truly don't give a fuck, then you don't care if others think you give a fuck or you don't give a fuck. You just don't care. Okay. You can think what you want. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. And that's that. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, very important one as well. I know I say that about a lot of them, but this one is really, really important. If you are in pursuit of happiness, good feelings, validation, etc., if you're in pursuit of those things, happiness, good feelings, validation, then you are under the assumption that you are lacking those things right now. Okay, so if you're wanting to find happiness or look for happiness or good feelings or validation outside of yourself, you're assuming that you don't have those things. Okay, so let that sink in. You're implying that you don't have it if you're looking for it externally. If you're oh, I'm trying to find my happiness from here. I'm trying to reach out for validation from there. I'm trying to get these things. You're further implying that you don't have these things already within yourself. Okay? You need to get to a place where you have happiness, good feelings, validation within yourself already as a default. That you don't need anything to happen, and you don't need anybody to say anything or do anything to make you already feel those things, right? You have those as a default, okay? You have the validation already within yourself, okay? You have the happiness already within yourself as a default. just because nothing needs to happen for you to feel that way. Okay? Nothing needs to happen for you to feel that way. It's already within you. That's your default. You're not looking anywhere externally for it. You internally have these feelings. And people are asking, like, why would you assume that I have these feelings internally? Like, just because, right? Just because. You're abundant just because. You're happy just because. Okay? You have validation just because. You're a high value person just because. You don't have to do anything to capture those titles. Okay? That's the illusion we fall into. We feel like I have to do something because I'm not enough as is. I have to do this certain something to capture happiness or to capture good feelings or whatever. But it is an illusion. Okay? You can do those things, right? You can do those things to get success, to make a lot of money, to feel even happier. But it shouldn't be coming from a place of lack, like where I'm just like, I'm not happy enough unless I do this, so I have to do this. I need to do this. It's not coming from a place of need. It's coming from a place of peace, right? You're doing this certain something to capture something from the external world, but you're indifferent to the outcomes because you know within yourself you already have this flood of happiness and positive emotions that anything else is just a bonus. Okay? All right, so let's get to number 3. If you avoid suffering, fear, and pain, then you are suffering and have fear and pain. Okay? Let me say this again because this is a huge one. If you avoid suffering, fear, and pain, then you are suffering and have fear and pain. You must accept and embrace these things to truly not give a fuck. Okay, if you don't give a fuck, you're not in avoidance of suffering, fear, and pain. You embrace it, you accept it as part of life, as part of reality. We all go through certain degrees of suffering, fear, and pain. It's when you learn to accept and befriend those emotions. Okay, you learn to bring those emotions in within yourself. You learn to immerse with them. Okay, so this is a new thought to people because they're like, wait, why would you want to feel suffering, fear, and pain? The reason why you would want to feel suffering, fear, and pain at times is because that's going to allow you to not resist it, right? Like if you're trying to avoid it, you're actively resisting those feelings. You're like, you're trying to stuff them away. But what happens when you resist something? It comes back at you twice as hard. Okay, whatever you resist will persist. That's just what happens. Those are facts. Okay, those are actual facts. Try to resist. I'm sure anybody who's watching this who is actively in their lives resisting and trying to avoid suffering, fear, and pain is suffering and has a lot of fear and pain. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. So how do we alleviate this? You alleviate this by not resisting these emotions when they take over you. Okay? When the suffering, fear, and pain, when it takes over you, you breathe into them and you befriend them and welcome them into your body. Okay? You sit down with them, you put your hands up, and you accept and embrace these feelings. And as you're accepting and embracing these feelings into your soul, you're befriending them. You're not viewing them as something negative. You're viewing them as a part of life. As you do this, you're going to find magically that they just disappear. and they just go through your body and they flush out because you're not resisting them. You're welcoming them into your body. You're really embracing, accepting them, okay? And the reason why they persist the way they do is because you're resisting them and you're trying to push them out actively. Like, why am I feeling this way? And then now you're scared because you're feeling this way. Now you're feeling more fear because you already felt fear. Now you're feeling more anxious. You're feeling anxiety about your anxiety. It all stacks up and you start, going into a panic instead of allowing it to really rest into your body. Let that fear, suffering, and pain just really rest with you. Be friends with them. Like in a different reality, okay? In a different reality, in a different paradigm, it could be that, like, for example, sadness and fear are the best emotions you can feel. Think about this for a second. In a different reality, let's say, for example, sadness and fear are the two best emotions that you can feel. So whenever you feel sadness and fear, you're like, oh, they're here. And you're so happy. You're like, oh yes, you're trying to hold on to them. You're like, please, like, how can I feel more of this? And as you do that, as you welcome them in, as you accept and embrace those feelings, what happens is they float away. Okay? Try this. The next time you're suffering in fear and pain, try this. Sit down or lay down with your body and just welcome it and breathe into it. Try to feel it as much as possible. Try to feel more of those sensations of fear and suffering and pain. Try to delve into it. Try to really engage into it. Just like be there with those sensations, those feelings. Just rest into them. Welcome them into your body. Like, give me some more of this. This is good. I like this. This is really good. Bring some more into that. Breathe into it. Let it happen. Watch what happens within 5-10 minutes. As you accept them, as you befriend these feelings, just watch what happens. Okay, the next time you're feeling this way, maybe come back to this video. Listen to this video. Let this video calm you down a little bit. Get into your body. Be best friends with these negative emotions. Welcome them, accept them, embrace them. Never avoid and resist them. And see how you feel. All right, see how you feel. And that's going to do it for part 1, okay, of the subtle art of not giving a fuck. And stay tuned in 2 weeks. We're going to do part 2, which is going to be epic, okay? So like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, drop a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.